Journalist Kimberly Dvorak. And Kim, this president, the 44th president, Barack Obama, is not rooting for Donald Trump at all to succeed. In fact, he's got his foot out hoping that he trips up, especially when you look at items like immigration, DACA, sanctuary cities. I believe that within the first probably 100 hours of the Trump administration, this president, the next president, the 45th president, Donald Trump, is going to go after these items with vigor. Probably one of the first things he does is rescind DACA.
Well, you know, this president's in a lot of trouble here because, as you know, he couldn't get his pieces of legislation through the proper channels, through both the House and the Senate. So he opened himself up for these executive orders to be repealed on day one, and it looks as if that's what the Trump administration will do.
And if we look at the new secretary or the head of the Department of Justice, Jeff Sessions, this is the Attorney General. This is an important moment in time, again, the first 100 days, for this administration to lay down the law, or re-lay down the law, or reestablish the law, constitutional law, and that would be go after sanctuary cities.
Yeah, and I've spoken with Mr. Sessions on this very topic multiple times, and for him, he's going to be looking towards Richard Nixon, of all people. He actually was sanctioned by Congress because he tried to stop the appropriation of funds to a project that he didn't like, President Nixon did not like. Mm-hmm. However, what we're looking at here, Sessions will use that to his advantage because the U.S. government is appropriating funds to certain organizations and cities across the country, and they are not using those funds for illegal immigration. They're using to support illegal immigration. So the approximate $500 billion, or about $500 billion that goes out to cities across the country to, combat the illegal immigration problem, they're going to stand to lose a lot of money. And how much are we talking about? We're talking about, New York City taking $7.7 billion a year. Are they really going to be able to walk away from that money? And I think also, just one quick point here too, Trump is brilliant when he's going after the actual criminal illegal, I call them illegal aliens. They're criminals. These are people who have been convicted of crimes. You're going to have mayors across the country standing up saying we need to keep these criminals here. The American public said no, we want them gone.
Totally tenuous situation. Yeah. I say starve these cities and let them try and figure out what they're going to do without the federal funding. When it comes to Jeff Sessions, though, what are you hearing in terms of the Senate? There's really no way Democrats can block them. If the filibuster rule remains suspended, he's going to be able to be confirmed, correct?
Yeah, and I believe word came out this morning that Senator Leahy came out in full support of Senator Sessions. He's actually someone who really believes in the rule of law, said that we really don't need to change a lot of the immigration books that are already on the books. He's just going to simply enforce those laws, and they haven't been enforced vigorously for, a couple decades now.
All right, so far, Donald Trump is well ahead of his predecessors in terms of naming his cabinet, way ahead of schedule. I think he's way ahead of Bill Clinton, for example.
Yeah.
But next is Secretary of State, logistically next, that we want to find out. This meeting with Mitt Romney, do you think it was just a show meeting, a way of mending a fence very publicly?
I think so, because I think also when, we look at politics and we see, the Obama administration did a lot of balloon floating. Is this going to work? Is that going to work? And I think that when you looked at social media, when Romney did go meet with Trump, that there was a lot of dissatisfaction with that. Mm-hmm. But I think it also allies the fears of some of the more centrist Republicans who feel that, he needs to have some sort of statesman beside him to help him in the decision-making process. I'm not certain that they'll choose him for Secretary of State. I think there are several other better candidates for that position.
I think Bolton is one of them. I think Bolton is the guy. Rudy Giuliani, maybe he can have a role as an advisor. I wouldn't put him in a very public, very prominent position. Rick Perry, I put him in charge of commerce or education or energy for the sole purpose of closing those departments down. That's what I would do. But that brings us to the possible head of the Pentagon, General James Mattis, Mad Dog, the guy who said that the United States Marine Corps is no better friend and no worse enemy. This guy going to be able to be confirmed?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to depend. He's going to have to get a waiver because he's just recently retired from the military, and also from a lot of the sources I'm talking to, he's well respected on both sides of the aisle. He served under President Obama, so they're more inclined to give him that waiver so he can run the Defense Department. And you're looking at him as a Patton-like general, and he's very well respected within the ranks. And he's like a go get things done. You want something done, you went to Mattis on this. So I think that he's going to have a much easier route to get that position than some of the other candidates. But, again, Trump's very brilliant at getting everybody focused one way, and then he chooses something else. He's good at dragging the media around. But I really think that it would be a really good fit for him.
Right.
And he seems to be surrounding himself with a lot of military folks. And I think right now, with the instability around the world, we really need that. So,
yeah, Mattis is a military guy. He's a military guy, right? Versus what we have right now, the head of the Pentagon, Ash Carter, who's a complete, he's a bureaucrat.
He's an accountant.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that we need that. I know there's supposed to be some sort of firewall between the military and the civilian side of the military, but I think this would send a message to the troops.
Yeah.
Hey, we're getting serious about taking back and reclaiming the United States military for the people. And as far as Flynn is concerned, you don't think he could have survived the Senate confirmation process,
No.
and that's why he's going where he's going?
Yeah, most likely, and I've also interviewed him on several occasions as well. It's just some of his statements that he made about radical Islam, and a lot of Democrats have taken offense to this. Obviously, he's talking about the terrorists, but they didn't want to go that far. And he actually will have a bigger role in the White House. He'll have the president's ear every single day, and I think that it's a very good position for him. He's going to be able to advise President Trump on these very issues, and they're really going to go after the war on terrorism.
Yeah.
And if you get a Mattis in there, you're going to look at Mattis, and people are going to, oh my gosh, he's really going to follow through with it. So he's going to strike fear in our enemies, and they're going to take him seriously. And right now, this administration is just not taken seriously when it comes to prosecuting the war on terror overseas.
Speaking of our enemies, very quickly, Vladimir Putin has come out and said that Trump and he, in their conversation, would like to normalize relations with the Russians. Is this the true reset button here?
It could very well be. And when you also, and this is something that, I talked to General Flynn about as well, and he said that, look, Russia, we have a lot more in common with Russia. They're a Christian nation, their women are able to work and go to college, and sure, he's a brutal guy, and he runs things a little more dictator-like than we.
Well, he's a thug. He's a very wealthy thug. He got wealthy because he is a thug. The two go hand in glove. But
he's not he doesn't, subscribe to the Middle East, Islamic Sharia law type book, and we have a lot more in common with him, and we should be working with him to help combat the terrorism issue. Not on all issues, but on this front, we have a lot more in common with him than we do the other side.
When it comes to radical Islam, I think the old expression is accurate here. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, and we need to work together to eradicate this problem.
It's a respect issue, too. So.
In the Middle East. All right, Kim, thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up next, the